So my conversation with the Honourable Kwame Seth Echampo, his MP for Imperial constituency in the Eastern region, but on this conversation he sits on the Defence and Interior Committee in Parliament. They are looking into this issue of the 2015 bill, the immigration bill. But my guest in studio is Francis Pamdeti, his head of public affairs with the Ghana Immigration Service. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Let's look at the bill in total. We'll come to the visa bit. I think that's where either the confusion or the debates or who makes the best argument, that's where that situation is. But let's talk about the totality of the bill. Why has this become so important?
The Immigration Service became a service in 1989. So we're established as a service in 1989. But before 1989, we're a department in the Ministry of Interior. So I would say over 20 years we've been running with this particular law, which is PNDC Law 226. And the evolution of time has warranted the need or necessitated the need for us to amend 226 to make it more relevant in our times. So we put together a team to think through, look at 226, see how relevant it has been and whether we could add a few more things. We've expanded the institution. We have more numbers. We've created a lot of departments and units, and we need some kind of legal backing for some of them. You know, we have the Border Patrol Unit, which is now a function of the GIS. It has to be incorporated in law. It has been running up till now on the cabinet decision, so it has to be incorporated. Our structure has also been stunted for a while because of the long lapse in reviewing the law. So we've reviewed our structure to be at par with our sister security services. So we've raised the structure a bit. We've also inserted the need to use weapons at our borders. Okay. The Border Patrol personnel cannot be working without weapons. It comes with the TEF. You need logistics.
So this is only the weapons will only be at the borders?
Yes, at the borders. Yes, mainly at the borders.
Okay.
And then the...
What kind of weapons?
Oh, light weapons, not, the robust military ones that go into conflict or battle. We are the first line of defense, and the theft that they patrol is quite dangerous. You don't have any form of structure or border in those areas. We call them the unapproved routes. So usually smugglers would want to take advantage of those routes because we don't have personnel or a border situated in those areas. So you need to have some form of equipment to defend yourself or to or discourage miscreants from using those routes.
Or for you to be able to face them.
Yes.
Because sometimes they bring on weapons and
Absolutely.
you have nothing.
Absolutely. So we also felt there was a need to recreate our board. One, to be in line with the Constitution, and also to bring in some other expertise on board, which we think would help the institution grow. So these are a few things we felt was quite necessary to bring into our law, and also to bring to a level where we think we would have all the legal regimes backing us to do our work effectively.
What kind of opposition have you received, even at the committee level, where the bill is under consideration?
Oh, I think so far, most of the members of the committee who have been around this country, some of them have been to some of our entry points and appreciate the kinds of the environment under which we work. They also have a fair idea of what our mandate is and what global best practices. So they are with us on the bill. They support us fully.
Is it fair to say that all the other aspects of the bill is okay? It's been okayed except for the visa issuance bit, which has become a problem?
Yes, as at Thursday, all other issues were cleared at the consideration stage, just for Section 4E, which is still pending because of the intervention made by the Foreign Minister.
What's your understanding of that situation?
Honestly, some of us were taken aback because it's the position of the law. The function of the Immigration Service, that's also one reason why we had to amend this law, amend 226. 226 did not come with our object and functions. So over the years, we've had to glean our functions from Ghana's immigration law, which is Act 2000-573, and LIC 1691, which is a regulation. So most of our functions have been gleaned from those two laws. Now we want to clearly spell it out in the new bill, just like other institutions would have their object and functions spelled out in their establishment law. So in putting that out, we were basically re-echoing the position of the law that the issuance of visa is in our domain. So when the objection or the call for an amendment came up, we were totally taken aback and surprised, because the function of issuing visa by the legislations of this country falls squarely in the bosom of the Director of Immigration under the Ministry of Interior. And it's not just Ghana's legislations, it's best practice everywhere. That the Ministry of Interior is responsible for the issuance of entry clearance and exit clearance, and visa falls in that purview.
What has been happening all these years? Who has been doing the issuance?
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is in charge of our embassies and missions abroad. In the mission abroad, you have the consular section, and some other agencies have been playing the role we are supposed to be playing. So I would say that they are playing the role as representatives of the Director of Immigration. Because
Why haven't you played your own role all these while?
I think historical antecedents and the fact that the institution is also evolving. I told you we started as a department in the Ministry of Interior. And so over time, some other people were playing that role. I mean, the police were playing that role for a while. They were a bigger institution at the time. They had numbers. And then by 2010, the research department also took over. But before then, the research department was working under other agencies. But we think the institution has grown. The institution has evolved. For you to have the benefit of an institution, you must let it grow to the fullest extent, especially when it is covered by the law. And we think that institutions will only build solid structures when they evolve and make mistakes and learn through mistakes and also interact with their peers elsewhere. Now we interact with our peers elsewhere, but we can't be seen to be contributing effectively at that level because they operate in the embassies. They issue visas externally. So naturally, it will come with some kind of experience. Having said that, I think that it takes government will to post people to the embassies. And I'm glad that our minister has assured us that there is the intention to send some of our officers to the major missions abroad as a start, because that is in the right direction. When you post people outside, they don't only bring to bear their professional expertise, but they have exposure. And these become relevant and useful assets to this country. So it is not to say that, some other people are playing the role, so you should sit there. It's just like,
but what difference would it make? Because they're doing a good job, aren't they?
I mean, we have challenges. We can't sit here and rehash some of the challenges they have, but just let me make this illustration. You can't say that a carpenter has wired his kiosk, electrical wiring, and hasn't caught fire. So because of that success, you would give him a 6-story building to wire. When you have a professional electrician in your team, that would be taking a huge risk. I think that persons who have been trained in a certain field should be allowed to discharge their duties.
My understanding also, trying to get into some of these issues, is that that research department we're talking about, which is at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, by the way, is not under the Foreign Affairs Ministry, it's under a security agency.
Absolutely.
So if it's security, because I think that's the big difference that the Immigration Service itself makes. Because you're supposed to be concerned about people who come into the country.
Absolutely.
You have to know where they are,
yes,
and how they get out and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So if that's also under a security agency, then it's no big deal.
We have in the missions, defense attaché, a security. You have trade attachés, you have information, you have other agencies in the mission, because what they bring to bear are peculiar skills that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs cannot deliver. Therefore, they rely on the ministries, departments, and agencies to provide those skills. Unless you want to take migration and immigration issues as things you can just pick on the shelf and read and understand, they are more technical than that.
So help us appreciate where you're coming from.
Let me give you
what's the challenge with those who are currently issuing or playing this role on behalf of the Immigration Service? What are they not doing right?
There's a disconnect. A disconnect in terms of institutional, we have what we call the pre-entry process, and we have the entry point process, and we have the inland process. It must be seamless So when my counterpart is issuing visas in emissions, I must know what he's doing. When the person comes into this country, I must know that he has legitimately obtained what they call a visa and he's in this country. And as we monitor him, we know that all things have been, all the process he must go through has been fulfilled. Now, as we speak, because we have two other agencies performing that role, the chain of information flow is difficult. Because it means if we have to send information to the missions, it has to go through Interior Ministry, it has to go through some other agency before it gets there. By then, the information may have been stale. So you also have a situation where even the visas, I mean, Ghana's visas can be better than this. As it stands, that's quite confusing. And sometimes those who issue the visas are confused with the way they go about it.
So, you know, you held it and then you said something. So let's appreciate what's on this paper.
Okay. Now, I don't know whether you...
Sure, I could just try and show it to the camera and see if we can pick it.
Yes. So you have on this visa, in other jurisdictions, even in Europe and America, you have the expiry date of the visa on the sticker. As we speak, we don't have an expiry date. You have to deduce the expiry date of this visa because it says that endorsed for 30 days from the date of issue. And then valid for entry within 3 months of date of, it doesn't say whether issue or anything, it just leaves it there. Now this is the date of issue which is here, 25/06/2015. This particular indication here is even confusing because when you say it is endorsed for 30 days, it means after 30 days, it is useless. But you are saying it is valid for entry within 3 months. That tells me that whoever is doing this is a bit confused. Now, most of our travelers who come in think that this is the expiry date of the visa because it says expiring 10th July 2024. It is actually the expiry date of the passport. So they receive this, they sit at home thinking they have a visa valid to 2024. He sits at home, he boards the flight, he gets here and says, no, your visa has expired because it was endorsed for 30 days and valid for 3 months. This visa is confusing.
So this is not designed by the Immigration Service, but you would see here, Republic of Ghana, Ghana Immigration Service visas.
Because it has to conform with the law. The law is that the authority to issue visas is the Ghana Immigration Service. That is why it is stated there on the law. Even though we do, I mean, those who do the visa appreciate the position that the law is squarely within our ambit. And that's why it is stated there. But we don't have inputs, even in the review of this law, of this particular sticker. But we have a document fraud expertise center.
So where do the monies go? Because people pay for the visas.
It goes to the consolidated fund.
You don't get a percentage of it as Immigration Service?
No, we don't.
Even though this is under your authority?
We don't.
What will be different if you take charge?
If we take charge, I think that for now, we are at the stage where there's a certain call for an amendment of the law, which we think is not right because you then have to amend 2 laws, and then you also then have to go against best practice, which we think is unacceptable. So for us, we are not, the position now is not so much about in rushing to embassies. We think that it could be done in a more calm and structured manner. Surely we would have dialogue with the institutions that have been doing it in the past. I think the Ministry of Interior will play a key role in determining how that would unfold. But for now, we think that the position of the law is clear on who has the mandate to issue visas, both Ghana and abroad. Those who issue the visas outside this country are doing that on behalf of the right of immigration. The law says that the forms that are filled by persons coming to this country, the forms are in the law, are in Act, are in the regulations 1691. That's where the form is. Now, the sticker has immigration. The form is in our law. If you want to go contrary to the legislations of this country, it means you have to amend all those laws. But Ghana's visa policy sits in those 2 laws. And it says that the authority for issuance of visa rests with the Director of Immigration. The world best practice is also in that direction. So I think that Ghana would be doing itself a great disservice.
Finally on this, are the 2 ministries in good terms?
Absolutely. They always write to us to sometimes know about the status of some countries that we have visa-free arrangements with. Sometimes they are going on programs outside this country and they want input from us on migration issues. So we collaborate with them on a daily basis.
Beyond that, are the two ministers talking?
I think they are cabinet members, so I'm sure they...
Because some people are perhaps thinking that this issue perhaps should have been resolved on that level and not even made its way to Parliament in the first place, if it's so clear.
You know, legislations are legislations. It's the law. It's not now evolving. It's something that has been passed by Ghana's Parliament in 2000 and in 2001. Those are laws passed by Ghana's Parliament. So I don't know whether the laws could be changed at that level, or whether a policy could be introduced to change the laws that have already been passed. But I think that you have to go to that extent to change the policy. Because the policy as it stands now, based on what the law says, makes the Director of Immigration the sole of visa issuance in this country.
What's the service's expectation? I mean, considering the concerns that have been raised and the point at which the bill is, what do you think the way forward is?
We think the way forward is to allow the bill to pass, because it has been stalled because of the issue that has been raised. And officers are yearning to have, because apart from this particular issue in the bill, there are other very important issues. Our officers are being attacked in the bushes every day. They need to wield weapons. They need legislations to back those activities. Our men are desperate to have the logistics they need, but some of us think that they must have the legal position to do that. That is also in the bill. So we shouldn't unduly stall the passage of this bill.
So this is holding a lot of things
absolutely
back.
Yes.
Well, we wish you the best. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully it goes in your favor.
Yes.
Francis Pamdeti is Head of Public Affairs with the Ghana Immigration Service. I got a message on this conversation and it says, it's from Ernest in Puerto. He says, Parliament should not allow this bill to go in favor of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but the Immigration Service, because it's their responsibility and duty. That is why they are there. You say, you sound like an immigration officer yourself, but thank you for the message. Stay with us here on the AM show. We've still got a lot more. Remember, we have a conversation on the budget that was read on Friday in Parliament. We're digesting the issues here on the show. Stay with us.